The bedroom is dark. At exactly 11:30 p.m., a finger taps a smartphone screen, setting an alarm for 5:30 a.m. In that quiet moment, the mind feels invincible, flooded with anticipation of a new, hyperproductive version of tomorrow. But when morning arrives, the world looks completely different. The room is cold, the bed is warm, and that same finger aggressively strikes the snooze button. Once. Twice. 3 times. Hours later, as guilt settles in, a familiar mental script plays out: I'll start tomorrow. We have all trapped ourselves in this cycle, assuming that those who achieve remarkable things simply possess an endless reservoir of the drive we lack. We look at the elite athlete, the prolific author, or the successful entrepreneur and assume they are fueled by a perpetual fire. But neuroscience reveals a fundamentally different reality, exposing a profound mismatch between how we think the human mind works and how it actually operates. If the driving force we call motivation is so inherently fragile, it begs a troubling question: what is the hidden mechanism that keeps disciplined people moving when the feeling completely vanishes? To understand why we stall, we have to understand the neurochemical illusion that misleads us. Most people mistake motivation for a permanent state of mind, but biologically, it is a fleeting emotional weather pattern. At the center of this misunderstanding is dopamine. Popular culture frequently mischaracterizes dopamine as the pleasure chemical, a reward released only after we achieve a goal. In reality, neuroscientists view dopamine as a molecule of anticipation, deeply involved in learning, motivation, and reward prediction error. When you perceive a potential reward, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of conscious planning, evaluates the opportunity, while dopamine spikes to drive you toward it. It is the chemistry of craving, not satisfaction. Because this system evolved to respond to novelty and immediate survival cues, it fluctuates wildly based on your environment, stress levels, and even lack of sleep. Relying on motivation to achieve long-term goals is like trying to cross an ocean in a sailboat while waiting for an erratic gust of wind. The moment the emotional breeze dies down, you are left stranded. If the brain's primary chemical driver is engineered for short-term anticipation rather than sustained endurance, how does the mind continue to execute difficult tasks when that surge of motivation inevitably fades? The answer lies in a neurological transition from conscious striving to unconscious execution, a process known as the habit loop. When you perform an action for the first time, your prefrontal cortex is highly active, burning significant energy to calculate every movement and decision. However, as a behavior is repeated in a consistent context, the brain initiates a structural handoff. The cognitive load shifts away from the conscious prefrontal cortex and deeper into the basal ganglia, a cluster of structures deeply involved in organizing motor patterns and executing routines. This is where habits are sculpted through a 3-part sequence: an environmental cue, the behavioral routine, and the subsequent reward. As this loop repeats, neural pathways solidify. The behavior requires progressively less conscious effort over time because the brain becomes hyper-efficient at performing familiar routines, transforming what once required deliberate effort into a far more automatic routine. Yet, knowing that the brain possesses this remarkable capacity for automation only intensifies the initial paradox. If the basal ganglia are fully capable of reducing the daily friction of hard work, why does the brain fight us so violently during the opening days of any new endeavor? The resistance we feel is rooted in the evolutionary economics of the human brain. Although it accounts for only about 2% of our body weight, the brain consumes roughly 20% of our metabolic energy. Consequently, our biology evolved an incredibly strict policy of energy conservation, prioritizing immediate gratification over delayed rewards. To our ancestors, spending precious calories on an uncertain future reward was a survival risk. The brain evolved to maximize immediate motivational value because a reward today guaranteed survival, while a reward next year was a gamble. When you force yourself to choose between the immediate comfort of the couch and the distant health benefits of the gym, a brutal internal conflict erupts. As mental demands accumulate throughout the day, self-control can become more difficult for many people, making effortful decisions feel increasingly costly. When willpower inevitably depletes, the brain defaults to its evolutionary baseline, the path of least resistance. If relying on sheer willpower is a path to failure, what structural shift allows highly disciplined individuals to bypass this evolutionary trap entirely? The secret shared by the extraordinarily disciplined is that they stop fighting their biology and start reshaping their identity. True behavior change is never about what you want to achieve, it is about who you believe you are. There is a profound psychological divide between the person who says, "I want to write a book," and the person who states, "I am a writer." The former requires constant motivation to initiate the act of writing, the latter simply acts in accordance with their self-image. When an action aligns with your core identity, the cognitive friction vanishes because the brain naturally seeks internal consistency. To bridge the gap between who we are and who we wish to become, behavioral scientists emphasize environment design and habit stacking. By altering our physical surroundings, we can eliminate the negative cues that trigger unproductive loops and anchor a new behavior directly onto an existing, unbreakable routine. By starting small, reducing the friction of a new habit to a mere 2 minutes, we trick the brain's energy conservation defense systems. These strategic adjustments work because they allow consistency to precede perfection, slowly rewriting the neural narrative of what we are capable of. But it leaves us wondering, can these microscopic, seemingly insignificant daily adjustments truly possess the power to alter the trajectory of a human life? The transformation is rarely cinematic, it is mathematical. Remarkable success is almost never the result of a singular, heroic burst of effort, but rather the compound effect of small actions repeated consistently over immense horizons of time. Like a river quietly carving a canyon through solid stone, the daily progress is invisible, yet the long-term result is monumental. We live in a culture obsessed with the illusion of the overnight breakthrough, but science reminds us that biology honors repetition. Motivation may inspire the momentum of your very first step, but it is discipline that carries every grueling step after that. The individuals you admire do not possess superhuman willpower, nor do they wake up every morning wrapped in inspiration. Their greatest advantage wasn't stronger motivation. It was making the right behavior easier than the wrong one. They simply built systems that insulated them from the volatility of their own emotions, allowing them to execute when they felt least like doing it. Every habit you practice today is a vote for the person you are becoming. Protect your daily actions. Because the future is rarely built in extraordinary moments. It is quietly created by ordinary decisions repeated every single day. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe to the Psychology Decode, and turn on the notification bell for more psychology documentaries.